Number 5, if your mind was not created by an intelligent being, you have no reason to trust it. And, I mean, this seems to be false on the face of it. Truth-seeking has survival value. There's value in knowing the truth. If you react to false information too often, you will die. And I mean, of course, our brains are hardwired in such a way that we have biases that we have to take into account via the scientific method. That's why the scientific method exists, so as to take into account our biases. We don't think that our brains or our minds are infallible. I mean, that's why you have double-blind scientific experiments and all that sort of thing. For that very purpose. If our minds were completely reliable, if they were foolproof, so to speak, then you wouldn't have to have all of those processes in a search for truth. And I would also point out that even if you have an intelligent being creating your mind, it doesn't give you a reason to trust it. How do you know that it's not fucking with you? The mere existence of a deity isn't a basis for trust. You'll have to lay out how you're being more consistent in thinking that you have a greater foundation for trusting your mind. But on to number 6, believing that the only things that exist are made out of matter fails on its own premises, etc., etc. I think everybody agrees. Things aren't all made out of matter. There's also energy. Yay! Like light and that kind of thing. And so your example is non-applicable with regards to thoughts. The fact of the matter is, just because all chemical brain changes are not thoughts. Your example, dead people have chemical changes in their chemical state, and those aren't thoughts. Just because all chemical changes aren't thoughts doesn't mean that all thoughts aren't chemical changes in the brain. You can have all thoughts being chemical changes without being all chemical changes being thoughts, in the same way that all mallards can be ducks, but not all ducks are mallards. As well, the scientific isn't the only way for determining truth, but it seems to be a pretty damn good way for learning things if the world is as we perceive it. And if it's not, well, you're kind of screwed anyway. Point number 7, evolution has flaws that need to be dealt with. There's 2 things here. First, you have a serious misunderstanding of what evolution is. There's no telos in it. We aren't evolving into anything, as there's no predetermined goal. Do some reading on the subject, man. Watch some Dawn Exodus 2 videos, or something by CDK007. Both of them are great resources. The information is out there for you if you want to look for it. And the second is, there's no necessary connection between evolution and atheism. Atheism has been around long before evolution, and there are many theists who accept evolution, so this is really a non-argument. Point 8, you can't disprove God's existence. I will agree on the face of things that you can't you can't prove a negative. However, lacking any evidence for God's existence, we seem justified in not holding that belief. Belief without evidence is warrantless. As well, if it is shown that God, however you're defining him, is logically inconsistent, then it's possible to disprove. For example, if you have a definition of God that includes that he is a married bachelor, using normal definitions for married and bachelor, we can safely conclude that he doesn't exist, or at least doesn't exist as described, because those attributes are mutually exclusive and thus logically inconsistent. What really strikes me on this point is you have to define God before we can move on to proof or disproof. And you offered multiple different definitions for what God could be. So really what you've done is you've provided a label without a referent. You're just using a word with that doesn't refer to anything. And that's unproductive at the very least. And then on to your last point, number 9, religion is not bad just because people who are part of that religion do bad things. And sure, I'll agree with you on that. But a primary tenet of your religion is that it creates a real change in a person, and if we don't see that change manifest, it calls into question the veracity of that claim. For example, we are judging the claims of Christianity, such as you're asking us to, when we say that the wrongdoing is in its name is a testament to its falsehood, because it makes claims to the fact that it should change its believers for the better, and we don't see that as being the case. I would also point out Hitler wasn't an atheist. Also, no one has killed people in the name of atheism. No one's ever said, there is no God, you must die. It's unreasonable. So your whole comparison fails with regards to calling Christianity to account for the Crusades and calling atheism to account for Stalin's actions as well, given that there's no overarching dogma or tenets of belief for atheism. It's not a belief system. The comparison really doesn't hold in any case. So in conclusion, there's really nothing that you've presented here that's a problem with atheism. You've thrown up a few arguments from consequence, a couple of non sequiturs, some red herrings, without actually addressing the subject that your video purports to deal with. Unfortunate. See you guys next time. I'm out.